Hi, and welcome to a brand new episode of Sipping Tea with Suzanne. I am so excited to be in the studio with the phenomenal, the brilliant, the beautiful Miss Viviana Abreu-Hernandez.
Thank
How are
you.
you?
I'm great. I'm even better because I'm here with you.
I am so excited that you're in the studio. Finally, you made it in, and of course, looking amazing
Thank
as
you.
always.
Thank you.
As always. So, thank you. I'm going to greet some guests, and then we're going to come right back over to you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. So, for those of you who tune in week after week, and for those of you who are subscribers, I want to thank you for your faithfulness, for your loyalty, for tuning in week after week, for sharing your feedback and your thoughts, and for engagement. I do appreciate you. I want to thank you to Paul Anderson, our executive producer, who makes the magic happen week after week. As you know, Sipping Tea with Suzanne is an opportunity for me to sit down with people that I admire and people that you guys admire throughout the community and not only highlight their stories, their passion to show you something to aspire to, but also something to remind you that if they can achieve it, so can you. And I'm so excited to be in the studio today with, as I mentioned, the fabulous Miss Viviana Abreu-Hernandez, who is the VP of External Affairs for Quinsigamond Community College and so much more. And if you've ever met Viviana, you know that you have been in the presence of royalty. And okay,
Thank you,
I'm
Suzanne.
sad.
I'm never going to leave this place. I'm staying. I'm
You better
staying.
stay.
Yes,
It is a mutual adoration
I
society.
adore you.
I adore
Yes.
you. You are petite, so we're gonna get that
Yes.
out of the way.
Okay,
And
yes. Tiny.
tiny, but I've always looked up to you because you are such a powerful force and presence. And I think once someone has met you, they never forget you. Oh,
Thank
that
you.
rhymed.
Thank you, Suzanne. But I
And
compensate.
you don't compensate often. You don't compensate at all.
Oh,
I think that you are the whole package.
thank
And,
you.
I think you have a pretty strong sense of who you are and what you bring to the table. And I'm not sure how long it took you to get to this place where you really are comfortable with who you are. So if somebody
Mm-hmm.
is not okay with you,
Mm-hmm.
that's their problem, not yours.
I try to live by that. Yes, I can only be me, and I can only strengthen my own values
Mhm.
and make sure that my purpose in life is accomplished,
Mm,
and that the people that support me in the way I support them back.
mm.
So I think that that's what I try to do.
All right. Well, you
Yes,
do it so well because
thank you.
you've always been so, and not just complimentary because everybody gets compliment, but
Yes,
you can sense the genuineness behind a compliment when somebody like and they actually follow up their
yes,
words with action.
yes,
And they'll mention your names in rooms,
yes,
they'll speak about you in front of people that are in positions to do something about it. So
yes,
I always appreciate that about you. And if you like someone and respect their work, you are
yes.
not afraid to like just shout their name off the rooftop.
Yes,
So
that is true. I think that I was very young when I held my first top leadership position. I
hmm
was 33 years old when I was commissioner of higher ed, appointed commissioner of higher ed for Puerto Rico. And you have to develop a very thick skin when you work in government,
hmm
particularly in an agency that regulates higher education and quality of higher education. So at a very young age, in terms of leadership positions, I had to learn that what was the purpose of my work and not let um, the politics in the bad sense of the word um, to affect the work that I was doing. So
Mm,
I'm a political scientist by training.
mhm,
So my bachelor's, my master's, and my PhD are all in political science.
mhm,
And I am a political economist. So what I
mm,
did as in my area of expertise as a PhD student in my dissertation was to look at um, uh, state policies, the neoliberal policies that existed to and promoted by the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to address the economic debt of Latin American countries, how those specific policies affected the lives of historically marginalized and underserved populations, from indigenous to people of color, workers, women. So I have always said that I did a PhD to inform my activism.
mm,
Um, not the other way around, not like I got a
Absolutely.
PhD and then I became an activist for issues of social justice.
Hmm.
So my degree has informed what I do, but I made a decision many years ago that I
Hmm.
was only going to work for social justice
Mm.
organizations,
Okay.
and that's what I have done for the last 20 years.
So what started your passion for this though? Because I
Hmm.
mean, as a child, I mean, when we're
Hmm.
thinking of careers, like how did you
Yeah.
get to that path? Like this is my passion, this is where I'm
Oh,
going, or
okay.
did you have another dream before?
So my parents wanted me to be a lawyer.
Okay.
Yeah. So because I was outspoken
Shocking.
and spoken
Okay.
and usually people uh, think that outspoken women and men they should go into the legal profession. So I
Absolutely.
went I did a bachelor's in political science at the University of Puerto Rico, thinking that I was going to go into law school.
Hmm.
um, but there were two personal events that happened to me as a child and as a teenager. There were two car accidents in my family, and in one of them, I had to be a witness
Mm.
into an accident in which one of my sisters was a victim,
Mm.
and I did not like the environment of a courtroom.
Hmm.
I still went through the bachelor's degree in political science, but then I realized that I wanted to stay in the
Hmm.
education aspect of policy. So I thought I wanted to teach
Hmm.
in college.
Hmm.
And I did that for a few years. So after my bachelor's degree, I did a master's and a PhD at Purdue University. And I went back to Puerto Rico and I taught for about 3 years. And that's when I decided to go into public policy of higher ed.
Hmm.
I am the product of public education,
Hmm.
elementary, junior, high school, college, master's, PhD, everything
Public.
is public education. So I know the extraordinary power
Mm.
that public education has to change lives and to transform lives. You know that
I
too.
do.
You know
I
that.
do.
So,
I do.
and in your experience, it transformed and shaped your life.
Absolutely.
So when I started the University of Puerto Rico, there was a student strike because they had increased the tuition 100%. And there was a strong student movement and student strikes, and I participated in those strikes. So I think that's when my activism kicked
Mm.
in which I knew that voting was not enough
Mhm.
and that we needed to convey in other ways the struggles of those that couldn't afford even public education. So I
Mhm.
had classmates that the increase in tuition was going to put an additional burden on their parents and
Or an end.
themselves. Yeah, so paying for housing and transportation and food is extremely expensive, and sadly to say is still the case
Mm.
even in public education, because you're now the president of the alumni association at QCC and you are part of the QCC Foundation board, and you know how much we need to support our students to be successful.
Absolutely.
So I think it was the impact of public education, um, understanding that education is a tool
Mhm.
for people to develop careers. And I think we need more than education, and we can talk about that if you want.
Absolutely.
But it was very important for me to internalize, acknowledge, and embrace that I was privileged,
Mm.
that I was able to go to school,
Mhm.
um, to work part time, but go to school and complete my education because of the public system.
Mhm.
And I wanted to be a resource
Mhm.
for those that cannot do it, to have some kind of guarantees. So amplifying the voices
Mm-hmm.
of people that have been historically marginalized and excluded from the
Mm-hmm.
socioeconomic system. So um, then, after teaching for a couple of years after my PhD, I did, uh, Suzanne, I've done things very fast. So
Yes.
by the time I was 28, I had a PhD and a 3 months old baby.
Okay.
So, so
Okay.
it was like a nonsense,
Yeah.
like this race to something that I still don't know what it is, but I keep
Mm.
running really fast.
Mm.
Um, so I went into public policy of higher ed,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that for about 6 years, and it was an amazing experience. And the work that we did in Puerto Rico, just uh,
Mm-hmm.
assuring quality of
Mm-hmm.
higher education affordability for, at the time, there were about 230,000 students enrolled in colleges and universities on the island. And then we lost the elections. The governor lost the elections, and I was jobless. Um, and eventually, I was able to go to an extraordinary opportunity in
Mm.
New York City. So I moved with my 10-year-old, just the two
Yes.
of us. Let's just have an adventure.
Yes. Let's leave
Yes.
Puerto Rico for New
Let's, yeah,
York.
let's go
Right?
to New York City. How
Different, by
about
the
that?
way.
In December. So I took
Wow.
this 10-year-old in the middle of the school year, and I told him it's going to be this is this. I'm like, Rodrigo, this is an adventure.
Sure.
Like
Okay.
by the third snowstorm, we're waiting outside for the bus to take him to school, and he's like, I think this is an adventure anymore. I think that we're staying. I think it's just better be clear. Just tell me exactly.
We're
So
done. Yes.
yeah. So what I did in New York, and I I work in workforce development of healthcare workers.
Mm-hmm.
So 1199 SEIU, Training and Employment Funds, is the nonprofit organization that develops and provides all of the education benefits, continuing education, English as a second language, citizenship classes, all the way from certificates to doctoral degrees, tuition reimbursed, um, to healthcare workers, for workers to engage and sustain a career pathway.
Mm-hmm.
So the population that I serve there is people like me,
Mm-hmm.
immigrants, non-native English speaker, mostly women of color,
Mm-hmm.
um, adult learners, parents, um, and that was an amazing experience. So I went from overseeing the system of higher ed and making sure that institutions complied with quality criteria and public policy
Mm-hmm.
of higher ed, to providing direct services
To be in the
to,
trenches with them.
yes, so
Mm.
from outreach and recruitment and enrollment, and making sure that all of this, we had in New York 190,000 workers just in New York City that were union members. So
Wow.
many of those went into career pathways. And seeing the success of so many people just fills my heart. And then I did that for almost 8 years, and then I came to QCC as VP of External Affairs. So I have had like 3 jobs, but like,
Impactful.
yes, 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 yes,
Impactful.
yes, yes.
And each role has exposed you to so, no, you
Yeah.
can drink your tea. This
Okay.
is where we're sipping tea
Okay.
here.
Very good.
I'll talk
Okay.
for a minute, so I'll give you an
Yes.
opportunity to
Yes.
sip. So
Yep.
each role, I think, has expanded your universe,
Yes.
and is giving you the opportunity to, to advocate more for the things that you're passionate
Mm-hmm.
about. But I do have a question
Yep.
though. So in all this political sphere, have you ever thought of like running for office? Um, I'm imagining you as a politician.
I have been asked many times
Okay.
to run for office.
Okay.
I've been even offered, somebody said, I'll run your campaign.
Okay.
Um, I flirt with the idea. Let
Okay.
me just say that. I flirt with the
I'm flirting.
idea,
Okay.
but
But
it
okay.
hasn't materialized.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
yes,
absolutely.
yeah.
I think it would be refreshing to have a politician. I know to others, but to have someone who,
Yeah.
actually says what they mean and,
Yeah.
like I said, back up their word with action. So,
Yes.
I'm got
Yeah.
my vote. You,
Okay. Thank
yeah,
you.
you
Thank
got
you.
my
Can I
vote.
kind? Okay.
You can
That's
count
one.
on my
That's
vote.
one.
I'll be
Yes.
on the campaign trail with you. How
Thank
about
you
that?
so much.
How about
Thank you.
that? So,
Yes, I think, I just, let me think about it, Suzanne. Let me commitment right here, right now. But
right now,
flirt with the idea.
we'll fly.
Yes, I have. I have.
Okay.
Yes.
There's that. So, I mean,
Mhm.
it's I know you said there's only three jobs, right? But it's such
Yes.
impactful role and
Yeah.
you have connected with and touched so
Yeah.
many people and, been able
It,
to, yeah,
like in my first job, it was
yeah.
about 6 years. At some point, you think in any organization, and I think this is healthy, that
Mm-hmm.
at some point you say, okay, I achieved what I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
achieve. And I
Mm-hmm.
moved this organization from A to B to C.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point you don't see
Mm-hmm.
what where do you need to oil this machine to
Mm-hmm.
get better,
Mm-hmm.
because you get comfortable.
You are, and you're
Yeah.
so in it, like
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. So I think that the healthy behavior is after 5 6 years.
mm-hmm.
You're like, okay,
Yeah.
somebody else needs to come
Mm-hmm.
and take a fresh look.
Mm-hmm.
That's how innovation happens.
It is.
It's how people are challenged.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I think that, once you are satisfied with accomplishing those
Mm-hmm.
specific goals that you had for that organization,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to move on.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of times things fall through the crack because we get
Yeah.
complacent, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
in a role, like we moved it forward. It doesn't mean that we haven't done impactful things,
Yeah.
but after a while, you get comfortable. You're like, I've done this, I've implemented this, I've created this, things are better.
Yeah.
But we also have to realize the world shifts, the economy shifts, people
Yes.
shift and change, and their needs shifts and change.
Yes.
And, it's sometimes better if somebody with a different view and perspective come in and, so you should always be hiring for
Mm-hmm.
your position.
Yep. Yes. And build within.
Absolutely.
This I strongly believe in career pathways.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in job upgrades. I
Mm.
believe in providing tools. When I there is mentorship that
Mm-hmm.
happens. I have been blessed
Mm.
with having extraordinary teams
Mm.
um, that pushed me,
Mm-hmm.
that held me accountable,
Mm-hmm.
that told me you're wrong when I was wrong.
And we need that.
Yes, and we need that. And we have to welcome that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to welcome and respect other
Mm-hmm.
people's stories and histories and
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we have to be humble as
Mm-hmm.
leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know it all, and I don't expect to know it all. Otherwise, why would you have teams?
Mm-hmm.
So, in Puerto Rico, in New York, and now in Worcester, I I have the privilege of conveying what the team has done.
Mm.
So it's I lead external affairs, and we have a lot of successes, and I am the spokesperson for this
Mm-hmm.
group of people. Without them, I
Mm.
will have nothing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So my director of communications and public relations, director of grants, community engagement, development, my director of operations, but they run this whole department.
Mm-hmm.
I do my best to provide them with what they need to be successful. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what a good leader should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and be a resource and make sure that their innovation, innovative mind is always working.
Mm-hmm.
How can we do
Mm-hmm.
how can we do this better? So
Absolutely.
I what I have done,
Mm-hmm.
it's been because I've had an army behind me and I stand on their shoulders. So I have done nothing alone. Nothing.
Okay. And
Yes.
that's wonderful. And I think that's the mark, of a true leader. I know that, I mean,
Mhm.
not that, Steve Jobs was the greatest leader,
Yeah,
we've heard, but I think one of the things that he had said, and I think people say it a lot, he says, why hire smart people and then tell them what to do?
absolutely. Yes. Yes, that makes no sense.
makes no sense. But as
Yes.
leaders, sometimes we do, we
Yeah.
want the best of the best. We recruit, we spend hundreds of dollars in executive firms, and we get
Mm-hmm.
the best of the best. And then when they come on board, and then we tell them, this is my
Yes.
vision,
Yeah.
instead of your vision, their
Yeah.
vision, and,
Yeah.
meeting somewhere
Yeah.
in the middle and doing something that's better for the organization and the people that you're
Yeah.
trying to benefit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yes.
great. Well,
Yes.
shout out to external affairs. Y'all are rocking it over
Yes.
there.
They are. You know them all. They're
I
amazing.
do. I
Yes,
do.
they're
There's some
amazing.
great people
Yes.
there. What's up, Sean? You better be watching.
Yeah. Sean and Karen and
Karen,
Shirley.
lovely. Yes.
Yes, Shirley and Nicole and Annie and
Oh,
Michelle V. You know
you know
that's
them all. And
they
Annie's
are
amazing too.
no,
Like,
they are stars. They are
miss, I'm
stars.
not gonna call any more names because I'm
Yes,
gonna miss
yes,
one.
yes,
And
yeah.
but like, great job. I do have to ask you this though,
Hmm.
because I find so. How does it feel though to be a Latino woman and be in these spaces where we they are being marginalized, and
Hmm.
then your face is, like the
Hmm.
head, like the face,
Hmm.
them seeing you and then seeing like the possibilities, like
Yeah,
she's Latino like me,
yeah.
and
So let me tell you something that happened recently. Worcester Public Schools, um, it's Worcester Education Council. Um, they invited me and many other people, and you were there for Principal for a Day. Were you there?
yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes. So you did that because we
I
met
did.
after
That
that.
was
So
wonderful. Yes.
yeah, so that was a great experience. So one of the things that they asked us to do was to read a book to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I show up, and the first thing I got was fashion advice from third graders.
They're very
Oh
honest.
yeah, they're very honest. So these I was dressed all in black with a long trench coat, also black, and these boys said to me, "I love your outfit." And then this girl said, "But you need a pop of color." And I'm like, thank you.
Very
That's great,
honest.
great. That's great. Oh, there you go. So
Thank you, Sean.
thank you, Sean. So I tell the kids, I grab my book and
Uh-huh.
I tell the kids, I am going to apologize ahead of starting reading the book because I may mispronounce some words because I am not a native English speaker. My
Mm-hmm.
first language is not English. This is my second language.
Yeah.
And immediately, three kids switched into Spanish and said, ¿Tú hablas español? And I said, yes, I do. So they loved it. And then they said, I don't speak English at home. I am from Guatemala. I am from, and then Brazilian
Mm-hmm.
young kid, he's like, well, I speak Portuguese, I parlar Portuguese. So, and so it was, so when we think about the impact,
Yeah.
sometimes we just look at our peers.
Mm-hmm.
Representation matters.
Mm-hmm.
It does matter. Um, and and the fact that these children were validated that yeah, you don't speak English, that's not your first language, that's not the language you speak at home, and that is okay. And I have an accent,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't pronounce all of the words correctly, and that is okay. That did not prevent me from doing what I needed to do. So so yeah, have I been the only person of color in meetings? Yeah, more times than you
Several
can think.
times. Yeah.
When I went to Purdue University, I was the only Latina for a significant amount of years when I was a graduate student, about 4 years in the graduate program. So, um, you know, political science is a male-dominated field, is a white male-dominated field, and then white women, and we are, underrepresented Latinos and Black, Asian, also. Um, so that's my environment. So being the only one, uh, or being one of two, it's not unusual to any of the work that I have done in the spaces that I have been. Um, so people talk about the imposter syndrome. I don't know if I feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just I have a role to play at
Mm-hmm.
that table,
Mm-hmm.
and it's irrelevant my demographics. I am just putting
Mm-hmm.
policy forward, solutions forward, pushing the boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that things happen. Yeah, it can be lonely.
Mm-hmm.
It can
Yeah.
be lonely
Yeah.
for but
Mm-hmm.
I have an amazing network of friends,
Mm-hmm.
colleagues that I have picked throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my one of my best friends, who I am very close to, is Dr. Maya Rockymore Cummings, and we were together in grad school, and until today we're like best friends, and we travel together, and it's so this kind of network
Mm-hmm.
of people that have shared
Mm-hmm.
life experiences is also really, really important in
Mm-hmm.
just checking yourself out of who you are, what you're doing, how you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, well, you know.
No, I
You
do. And, I just
know.
never suffered from imposter
Hmm.
syndrome. And, to those that do, and I know that they're seeking help for it.
Hmm.
But one of the things I've always felt, when I walk
Yeah.
into a space, I know who I'm representing.
Yes.
And, sometimes I feel like, I mean, there's days that I was like, okay, like, I don't want to represent the entire Black race.
Yes.
But there is a lot of times when I walk into spaces and I am the
Yeah.
only,
Yes.
I, I'm like, I'm aware of who I'm represented. I want others who look like me,
Yeah.
who are not, say, in roles that, they look at. Like, that might be the one, cleaning the floors or whatever, to
Yeah.
see me as like, oh, and hold their head up a little higher because
Hmm.
A, I believe every role is important.
Yeah.
And B, I want them to see that it's possible to be in those spaces. I'm
Hmm.
not saying it's not going to be challenges. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that being in those spaces is not challenging in
Hmm.
itself, because there's times that, you're overlooked, you're overtalked, and you are relegated to the pop of color,
Yeah.
to be quite diplomatic.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're so colorful. And,
Uh-huh.
it's
Yes.
kind of like putting you in your place and
Yes.
not being afraid to kind of take that responsibility to say, you know what, like, you may
Yes.
have been a box, but
Yes.
honey, I don't
Yeah.
fit in a box.
Yes. So I was in a meeting in my job in New York City with these high level officials of higher ed, and I was there to um, to advocate and to for adult learners. So the higher education system is not as user friendly for adult learners as
Mm-hmm.
it should be, particularly because it's a population that is growing in terms of enrollment in community colleges and
Mm-hmm.
bachelor's degree institutions. So, um, adult learners, and it's a passion of mine because they are coming back to school later
Mm-hmm.
in life because life did not work out earlier for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason.
Absolutely.
So I'm in this meeting and I'm letting them know that we need these career pathways and um, uh, courses to be held at night and issues with admissions tests and high. It was a conversation about students, and this gentleman said to me, "Well, what I don't know if we can serve your people."
Okay.
Yeah, and then I asked for clarification,
Who are your people?
and I said, what are you referring to? Is it immigrants? Because I'm an immigrant,
Mm-hmm.
non-native English speaker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a non-native English speaker. Woman of color. I'm a woman of color. Single parents. I'm a single mom. Full-time worker. So tell me,
Which
because
one of these?
those people, which one are you referring to?
Mm.
Silence. The topic changed. The question was not answered. But I understand that
Mm.
it is the perception that we encapsulate
Mm-hmm.
in one persona
Mm-hmm.
a lot of demographic and
Mm-hmm.
life and cultural characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, you know, if we, you and I, have been the privilege that of being at that table, we should not be. It is legitimate
Mm-hmm.
that we are voicing the needs of populations that we share demographics
Mm-hmm.
or histories
Mm-hmm.
or stories because they are not at the table.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's okay to be unapologetic.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Yes, I am here,
Absolutely.
and I am representing these voices because I'm the only one that is here to represent those voices.
Mm-hmm.
So I I am unapologetically in support of social justice
Mm-hmm.
and
Deal with
and
it how you may.
yes,
Deal with it. No,
yes,
I,
yeah,
I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think, again, I feel like, and I think I was having a conversation with someone recently, and, based on a conversation I had with someone. And I think sometimes, again, they put us in a box. And so I
mm-hmm.
had to ask for clarification, with this conversation with this person, because I was like, I think he expected me to have a struggle story. Because, and
Yes, I know what you mean.
I've had challenges, as
Yes,
we all do. I don't think
yes,
there's
yes,
any
yeah,
person
yeah,
that was never born without challenges, right?
mm-hmm.
But I
Yeah,
don't have a struggle story. And I think, sometimes like, oh, tell me your story. And I'm like,
uh-huh.
what story is that?
Yeah,
They're expecting, the domestic violence and child abuse and all these struggle story, which
yeah.
I don't have that. And for those that do, I
What a
advocate
disappointment,
that
Suzanne.
it was
What a disappointment. Come on,
it
Suzanne.
was. They just
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't.
Yes.
I've never been one to shy away from
Yes.
speaking up for myself and speaking up
Yes.
for others. But then
Yes.
sometimes someone feels like because you're speaking up for
Mm.
others, again,
Yes.
is because you share similarity. And I don't have to share similarity with someone in everything to speak up for them. So
Yes.
I'm a woman of color, as you mentioned, I'm a Black woman. I've experienced, racism and
Mhm.
all these things in the workplace, but some of the things that they attribute, with expecting, like, the struggle,
Mhm.
I haven't, but it doesn't mean that I can't speak up for my brothers and my sisters
Yes.
who have experienced that and gone through that. So sometimes I have to remind them, no, I don't have
Yes.
a struggle story.
Yes.
I am just that fabulous.
Yeah. Good. That is good. That is good.
Yeah.
Because it's also challenging the stereotypes.
It,
So this is another thing. So what I use humor to
always.
deal with these kind of things.
Yes.
So the other the other day somebody, it just said something to me that I said, let me just clarify. I,
Yeah.
I am Puerto Rican, but I have never met Jennifer Lopez.
You
And
haven't? Y'all
yeah,
didn't grow up on the same block?
yes, no, we didn't. She was from the other block. And I'm not related to Ricky Martin.
Oh,
So I just, the whole idea that we know each other, I think is funny. So I laugh. I just laugh. Yeah.
sometimes you do. I mean, it's like I'm from Jamaica, right? So it's like
Yeah.
Cinderella's like, oh, I was in Jamaica in the 70s. I met, do you know Rick?
Have you been asked if you're related to Bob Marley?
All the
All the
time.
time. Okay. There you go.
And for your
Yes.
information, I am. No,
Yeah.
I'm not,
Yes.
but
Just
I will claim
no.
that.
No. Go ahead.
I will claim
First
that,
cousins.
right?
Yes.
Except,
Yes.
I've been, one of the things that it used to, and I think it's gotten better now because marijuana is legal. But
Yeah.
back in the day, whenever I'd go to these spaces and I was like
Ah,
the only store manager, the only district manager, like that looked like me. And
yes.
it was like, I bet you got high all the time.
Yeah. You don't smoke and no drink?
I don't.
No.
It's not like, so I would say, yeah, no. And I'm like, marijuana doesn't hold the appeal for me that it holds for you
Yeah.
because, like,
For cultural reasons.
for cultural reasons, like my
Yeah.
father was a Rastafarian, I respected
Of
it and all of
course.
that. And
Yes, of
sometimes
course.
I feel like educated. Sometimes I'm just like, that is so insane. Like
Yes.
the fact, and I'm like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
never smoked it, but
Yeah.
you do you.
This is so funny,
It's,
Susan.
you know,
Yes.
you laugh it off. And then
Yes.
other
And so
times,
it's like, yeah.
sometimes you have to educate and let them
Yeah.
know. And then the other time, I'm just like, do better.
Yeah.
Like you just look at them and like, do better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I understand what you're saying.
like,
Yes.
do better.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes we do. It just depends on the person and the
Yeah.
environment and the, like,
Yeah, no,
yes.
exactly.
Yes.
I do respect people that
Yeah.
have a genuine curiosity
Yes.
and, ask me things, about my culture, not the
Yeah.
stereotypical things,
Mm-hmm.
not let me touch your hair, not do you get high, not can you swim, not the
Mm-hmm.
negative stereotypes, but,
Yes.
like one of the things, like personally, I believe, and I was having, you talked about the Worcester Educational
Yeah.
collection or
Yeah.
like whatever it's called,
Yeah.
like I forgot. Sorry, Jennifer.
Yeah.
They had an event where they had presented the documentary by LeVar Burton, The Right to Read, and they just really talked
Yes.
about the reading levels of America and the
Mm-hmm.
different system that they use. And the director of education, and he wasn't there, but someone else spoke for him, the person that worked for him. And at the end, I had an opportunity to speak to him, and I said, have you looked at just like the reading habits of in different countries like Jamaica, because we were like at 2 years old. The minute you learn how to talk, like you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
And in America, like kids are graduating from high school not knowing how to read.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the assumption that because we're from Jamaica, we don't know how to read. So I think sometimes you're in spaces where you're like, okay, let's have a serious conversation, because we
Yeah.
overlook spaces because we're like, these are third world countries, they don't. But there's certain things believe in Jamaica that is so the elementary education that is so
Mm-hmm.
advanced
Yeah.
in comparison to America, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
they could learn from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
So in we talking about different cultures and different histories, um, in so historically in Latin America you had two ways to engage in socioeconomic upward mobility.
mm-hmm.
It was either education or the military.
Mm,
It's still like that in this country for people of color
mm-hmm.
because we don't have wealth.
No.
So we don't have accumulated wealth. We don't have inheritance. So think about the only ways in which people of color in this country have supported their kids is like you have to get your education or the military being a career. In Latin America and the Caribbean, for historical reasons, there is a shift. Education is a right. And in many instances in Latin America, and that changed sadly in the 1990s when they couldn't afford to pay the foreign debt, and the IMF and the World Bank
Mm-hmm.
intervened with austerity plans for the the countries to reduce their expenses, and they cut expenses in public services, and that affected public education. But for centuries, education in the public setting was completely free.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a big strike in the Universidad Autónoma de Mexico, UNAM, which is the Autonomous University of Mexico, in the mid 90s after NAFTA, in which Mexico had to agree to a payment plan with the IMF and the World Bank, and they were going to start charging for tuition. And students went on strike for about 9 months in the longest history
9 months.
of strike
Mm-hmm.
of students in Mexico. So, you know, college students historically in Latin America have been activists. So I was just telling a friend of mine recently that during the dictatorship in Argentina from 76 to 83, um, 30,000 people disappeared, and most of them were college students because college students make revolutions.
Mm.
And this was in the 70s after the revolution of Cuba, and you had the Sandinista revolution in Nicaragua. So, students and education. So,
Mm.
one of the most important thinkers
Mm-hmm.
of the past century is Brazilian,
Mm.
is Paulo Freire. And he wrote about the pedagogy of the oppressed and how the education system is the tool to change the mind frames of colonized populations. And then you have Albert Meme, who wrote also about the relationship between the colonized and the colonizer and how the education system works on it. And then you have Frantz Fanon, who also did that. So there is a lot of philosophy behind education in how that shapes societies is different. In from the Rio Grande South is a different approach to what education is and what it is. It's in the United States, colleges and universities emerged to educate the elites.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I love listening to you. You have so much
Well, thank you.
information.
Thank you so
I
much.
remember going to a meeting and you spoke, I think it was like for an hour about the Penn grant and education and oh my goodness. It was just like I was just like, "Oh my goodness.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant and not boring."
Thank you. That's the part I was waiting for. Boring.
Boring. I was like, "Oh my
Yes.
god, like how did she retain all that information? You had graphs and
Yeah.
all this lovely things."
Shirley, if Shirley's watching, she says that I have the best memory she's ever.
That's why I'm like, because like
Yeah.
you're just dropping. I'm like, who said that quote? What was that conversation? Tell me. Well, like you're just, like
Yeah.
you're gonna have to teach me that memory trick because it's like, as I get
It's like
get older,
we won't.
we just won't.
Wait.
We'll just
Yes,
refuse
yes,
to,
yes.
get older
So
and
I did teaching and I wrote a, it's my passion.
yeah.
I have been somehow always,
Mm-hmm.
as a professor, as a public policy, as a,
Mm-hmm.
workforce development, which is through
Mm-hmm.
training and education, and now in external affairs. It has been a trend.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, education in itself, at K-12 and all the way to college, um, is one of the puzzles for people to be able to, um, have the best quality of life they can.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
it's not only education. So how is education tied to housing? So if if so when the pandemic hit at QCC, the whole country, we had to create within 24 hours a student emergency aid fund, and that was the QCC Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Who and Dr. Linda Makel, I called her and I said, we need to just, we need to provide support to students because they are not going to be able to retain their jobs and they are not going to be able to pay their home and rent and food and transportation and healthcare if they get sick with the virus. So um, we started fundraising for that student emergency aid fund. And in the foundation, this is something that we do. But one of the things that we were conveying was in those requests and fundraising campaign, and with the support of Linda Makel and Sue Mailman as the chairwoman of the trustees at the time, saying if our students do not graduate, they won't be able to get better jobs. If they don't have better jobs, they're never going to be able to ask for a mortgage loan, and they won't be able to purchase a car. So education is one of the steps. But and I'm going to quote Sandy Vito, my former boss in New York, we cannot educate people out of poverty. So while education is important, people need good paying jobs with retirement funds, with health insurance, with good quality of life.
Absolutely.
And we have people in this city that are teaching at the college and university level that live with roommates because their salaries are not
Reflective.
reflect they cannot afford to live in an independent apartment or to purchase a house. So, and these are highly educated people that are professors in colleges and universities within the city. So it's not only education, it's also affordability of rent and housing. Forget about availability of housing, affordability of housing. A good transportation system. And if we don't have it, then we have to purchase a car. So what it is that allows for a person to be whole and have the same opportunities. So it's tackling those aspects of life that are less accessible for some people. So I had a conversation when the vaccine became available. And a person said to me, okay, so everybody can get the vaccine, it's completely free. We are offering and just any place. Why are you saying it's not equitable still? And I said, because, like essential workers will have to take a day off to get into a line to get a vaccine. And those are 4 or 5 hours of salary that they won't get. If they don't get that amount of money in their paycheck, they won't be able to access the food. So the accessibility, the equity aspect of it is not making everything available at the same time for everybody. It is providing the necessary resources to everybody where they are so they can access that thing that is available for everybody. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I think but I think a lot of times people mix up equality and equity.
Oh, yes.
Because it's like equality is we all get in shoes,
Yes.
but equities we get shoes that is our size, right? Because you and I, we can both get a shoe,
Yes.
but we are not the same size,
No.
darling.
No.
And I think that's the challenge that people face, because you're
Yes.
right, they can't afford to take off work,
One day.
because if your paycheck is missing $100, you're right. You decide, do I buy food or do I pay rent?
Yes.
And it's just as like, and those are choices that you shouldn't have to make,
Yes.
but unfortunately,
Yep.
is choices, and especially now with what's going on, that people are making every single day.
Yep. Yes, and it's also, daycare, childcare that is so expensive.
Of course it is.
Medical care, access to healthy foods. It's it's a challenge, and we have to, as a society. So yesterday, I thought the president of WPI, Dr. Wong, Grace, she gave a talk yesterday at the Women's Forum. And she's an engineer, and she was saying that about 20% of the investment in terms of innovation is going to go to STEM disciplines. The other 80% should go into the social sciences, because it is the interactions between humans and humans' behaviors and people's behaviors what needs to be transformed. And you should have her here. She's amazing.
Okay.
Yes, you should have
We'll
her
take
here.
her name down.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. She's. I will never be able to convey what she said the way that she said it, but it is true. Technology is going to be there to facilitate some processes, but humans are the ones that have to reorganize society. It's not going to be robotics. The organization of society, the analysis of public policies, we're going to still have elected officials, and we're going to still have to make sure people go to vote, and we need to make sure that we are electing the people that are going to represent those populations that need to be represented. So I think that if we think about how we are going to create an ecosystem in an environment that allows for everybody to thrive, it has to be from the human interaction. Technology is going to be there. How it is that we're going to do it, and how. So we have a culture, Latinos, in which our families are the caretakers. And
thank God for that, but for us too.
Yes, but that's not the case for everybody. No. And that's not the case because now people are working so many years in their careers that they cannot take care of the grandkids. So what it is that the family is shifting, that because of the need of continuing to work and be able to make ends meet and pay for your housing and pay for your food, that people are retiring later. So that ecosystem that we had as a culture, in which everybody will pinch in to take care of the kids, that is also dismantled.
It
So
is.
this kind of analysis is just, we just need to rethink how it is that we interact with each
No,
other.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I was blessed, I was
Mm-hmm.
able to have a family member look after my kids so I could work full
There
time.
you go.
But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
And, like for my mom's in her 70s and my mom still works.
Yes.
So
There
that
you.
is not something that I can count on,
Yes.
if I decide to have kids now.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I won't have that. And you're right. Like that is something you count on because
Yes.
after school programs are so expensive.
Yes.
I think if you're already struggling to pay the necessities, you can't
Yeah.
shell out $200 to $300 a week for an after school program for your child.
Mm-hmm.
So then what do you do with that child? Because you can't leave your job. And that's how you end up putting them in unsafe environments
Yes.
because you can't, the environment that are supposed to be for them, you can't afford it. And
Mm-hmm.
rightful, like who can spare an additional $300 a week
Yes.
per child?
Per child.
Per
and
child.
and and because I lived in San Juan, not in my hometown, I didn't have that family network
Mm-hmm.
that could help me with my child.
Yeah.
But I had amazing neighbors, and my next door neighbor, and we will take care of each
Yeah.
other's kids when somebody had to do something. um, but I did, once I moved to New York, it was a whole
It's
different,
different
it's a
now.
whole
It
different
is
thing. So I
different.
had to pay for the after school program. And then when you pay for that, what are you cutting? Because you're
Absolutely.
cutting
You have to.
somewhere.
You have no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to, you know, how we make sure that people can access education, but that all these other
Mm-hmm.
needs are met.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible. So you can have absolutely tuition free post-secondary
Mm-hmm.
education. If the other needs are not met,
Mm-hmm.
it won't attract anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you remember Maslow's hierarchy of need? Shelter. It was one of the like when I was getting
Yeah.
my degree. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
like basic
It's
needs
shelter.
has to be met.
Yes.
Like, and sadly, if you see how many unhoused
Yes.
there are now, like the basic
Yes.
needs are not
Yes.
being
Are
met.
not being met.
Shelter and food,
Yeah. Shelter and
like
food.
the comfort is a luxury.
Yes. Yes. Transportation is a
Those are
luxury.
luxuries,
Yes.
like, but the
Yes.
basic need, shelter and food,
Yes. Yeah.
are not being met. And if
Yes.
the basic needs are not being met, the others are
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Education takes a back seat.
it does.
It
It
does.
does. Because you're thinking,
Yes.
like, do I send my child to school or do I pay for rent?
Yeah.
I mean, so it really tough that, those are some choices that we have to make. But hopefully there are more people like you out there in the
Yeah.
world who are advocating for systems and policies that's going to help us. You know, we need to build generational wealth.
Yes, we
We
do.
need to build
We
generational wealth.
do.
Each generation
Yes.
has to be better
Yes.
than the other in terms of just the
Yeah.
things that they have. And, I have this conversation with my daughter who's signed up, is going to go to QCC.
Yes,
So thank
good.
you so much for
Yes.
that. You and I had some great
Yes, that
conversation.
conversation.
Yes, and
Yeah.
thank you for meeting with her. And, it's just like,
Hmm.
we had a conversation. And I think, I say to, her, and I say, I just want these kids to understand that generational wealth doesn't mean, Nikes and Louis and things like
Hmm.
that. I want you to start thinking of, saving and building and, owning a home and, things like that. And, what are you going to do with a Louis bag?
Yes, that is true.
you know,
Yes. And
so,
but talking about
and their
buying a
housing.
house,
Exactly. Oh, I'm a
it's
lender. So, yes,
yes. So you know that it is hard
it is very
for
challenging.
people of color to be able to get the financial support,
Absolutely.
um, for credit reasons, and because we have no wealth.
Well,
So
exactly.
yeah,
And we
so
don't understand wealth,
yes,
to
yeah,
be perfectly honest. And I think, that's not one of the things, like, I teach financial literacy. I encourage people to go to financial literacy
yeah,
courses anytime you see them, because, don't understand how to budget, don't
yeah,
understand how to save. And I get it, because when you're living from paycheck to paycheck, it is very hard to think of, let me pull money from this and put it here. Because if you pull
yes,
$20 to put it in savings, it's coming from somewhere.
is coming from
And it's just
somewhere.
like we're the saying in our country, you borrow from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah,
But one day Peter's going to ask for his money back.
yep,
And that's when credit card comes in, right?
yes,
And then you get in debt. And then if you don't have credit,
yeah,
so it's a vicious cycle that goes over and over
yes,
again.
it
So,
is. Yes.
but thank you so much, for sharing your insight. I
Mhm.
love that. So there's so much that we have to talk about. We only have an
Thank
hour.
you.
But let's talk about your other passions. What
Okay.
do you do for fun? PG.
I will. So I love to spend time with my friends. So I call and say, "Can you come this weekend?"
Oh,
And I have my friends that some from New York, from Florida, from Puerto Rico, they come and visit, and I go visit them.
wonderful.
So those gatherings and those weekends that we just do nothing and just we just hang out and talk and
Mm,
eat and cook um, with my friends, I that brings me joy.
mm,
um, I love the theater. So in when I was in New York, I used to go to Broadway. And that is something that I miss.
yes.
Yeah. So I love the theater. I love musicals. I love drama.
Mm.
Um, we also used to go, my son and I, to the New York Philharmonic, and we really like going to the concerts.
Mm,
Um, so I like the theater. I like um, music. I spend time with my friends. I read.
mm.
I do. That's why I have a lot of information, as my brother says, useless but handy. Useless but handy. It's like,
It's
who
okay.
knows? Who knows that stuff?
You
Yes.
could quote Nietzsche and
Yes,
all of that, Sun
yes,
Tzu,
yes.
all
So
the drop of
yeah,
a hat. It's
there.
fine.
Yes, yes. He thinks it's boring, but it's okay. So I'll tell him it's
Yeah,
not boring.
it's not.
It's
It's
not boring.
fascinating.
Yes, and um, I would like to do more traveling.
Mm,
Um, my we have to justify our salaries, so I have to show up to work. Um, but reading and theater, music, and my friends, I think
um,
that's what brings me peace.
mm,
Um,
I
at
love
this
that.
stage of my life, it's about emotional and psychological and
Mm,
physical wellness.
absolutely.
Um, I enjoy spending time with my son.
Mm.
He may not enjoy it as much as I do,
Does. He's
because I
lovely.
I have to beg him to watch a movie with me. Do you want, please watch a movie with me?
In
So
his defense, he do spend a lot of time with me.
yes, yes, that is it. Yes, yes. And I love the movies. I
Yeah,
love the theater. So, um, now with all of these streaming services, it's like, am I gonna go to see
I know.
a movie?
It's
Yeah.
tough, but yeah,
Yes, and there's some that I'm like, I'm gonna
I
see this
have
one.
to
Yes,
in the theater. Like,
yeah,
you have to. It
yes,
deserves the theater.
yes,
Like, it
yes,
deserves the theater. And then there's some that you
yeah,
definitely love the streaming service because you want to
yes,
curl up with it
yes.
and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a new movie on Prime called The Idea of You. Anne
Oh,
Hathaway. It's a love story. And if you're into love stories,
okay.
but I do love it. I actually read the book, I think last year or the year before. It's by
Uh-huh.
Robin Lee, and it was a beautiful story. So there's
Uh-huh.
a story behind it, whatever. But anyway,
The Idea of You.
The Idea of You. Now it's a
Okay.
movie on Prime. I have it on in my
Okay.
thing. I'm gonna watch
I
it to
think I
see.
saw the
The book
advertisement.
was beautiful. The book was
Okay.
beautiful. I love romance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I
if you're
try to
into.
read my fiction in Spanish
Oh, okay. Okay.
because I operate in English.
Mm-hmm. So,
all the time.
and that's your
So
first language.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I like to read in Spanish, and I listen to a lot of salsa music,
Oh, well,
and
okay.
you
I
know
know you like to dance and
yes,
sweat
we
and
that I like to dance. That is true. That is true.
I know
Yes,
you like to dance and
yes,
sweat. I
yes.
mean, hey,
Yeah,
well, that's really cool though. I mean, I
yeah.
think it's important. There was a thing that I was listening to with Michelle Obama, who I love by
Mm-hmm.
the way.
Yeah.
And she was just talking about, the importance of friendship and
Yes.
girlfriends. And she was saying that, like how important it is. And I truly believe that the importance of friendship because they ground you, they encourage you, they inspire you, they remind you, they make you laugh out loud.
They know your soul.
They do.
They
And
know your
when you
soul.
find a friend like that, it's so incredible.
Yes.
And she was like, it's not at the expense of career or all of that. Like,
No.
you should continue to
Yes.
nurture and strengthen those relationships while you're
Yes.
doing that.
And
And
make time for
absolutely,
it. So I have
absolutely.
this group of friends from New York, and we get together every 18 months. We
Okay.
rent a big house and we all go together. And
Okay.
last time was in Connecticut, and it was great.
That's a
Yes.
plot for several romance novels I've read.
Oh, yes. Yes. We talk about everything. Everything.
Yes.
Yes. And we are all just moving into our
Yes.
careers and families and all of that. But I nurtured that time. It's so important
And
for
that's
me.
important because
Yes.
it's like 18 months. Or it's like if you
Yeah.
said every month, that's
That's
impossible.
impossible.
Nobody can
And
do
we
it
are all in different
all over the
places
world.
now.
Yes.
Yes. We're in
Okay.
different
I love
places.
that.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Yes.
Hands down, what's your favorite vacation place?
Oh, because I've been in the US for so long, I love going back home to San Juan.
Okay.
But I went to Cartagena, Colombia
Okay.
with my friend Maya. What an amazing place.
Yeah.
It's the celebration of people
Mm-hmm.
of color. It just is amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
Cartagena, it's in the Caribbean coast
Mm-hmm.
of Colombia. So the
Mm-hmm.
food, the music, and it
Wow.
looks a lot like Puerto Rico. Like we even have the
Mm-hmm.
same name of different plates, but I love it. I've
Oh,
been to
okay.
Cuba a couple of times, so that's another place that I care, and I my experience there, I will cherish it my
Oh,
life, my
oh,
whole life. So yeah,
yeah, that's wonderful.
yes,
All
yeah,
right. So your
yeah.
passion for shoes, how often do you shoe shop?
As often as my budget allows, and
How
and the high heels. I have a thing,
I
like
know you have a
yes.
thing.
So
Just
yeah, the flats I will. So I fell recently because I was in flats, and I'm
that's
not
what I
used to it.
tell people.
Yes, I'm
Like
not
I
used to it.
trip slides
Yes, no one believes you.
because it's like just so flat.
Yes, yes, I fell because I was in flats.
It's flat.
Yes,
I will challenge something you said as
yes,
often as your budget allow. I've been able
yes.
to justify that.
Oh,
So
well, of course, if there is an occasion and there is nothing in your closet that matches your ideal
yeah,
outfit, because you don't have the outfit
you
yet,
don't.
but the ideal outfit, you still need new shoes. Yes, that happens.
Exactly.
Yes, yes,
So,
yeah, yeah,
Paul said to me this week is like, why do I have so many shoes on my Amazon wish list? I'm like,
yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to clear it up?
that's what I
Because
told him.
we can move them from wish list to
To
checkout.
thank you. Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
if it's the wish list, what is driving you insane, we can fix that easily.
Thank you.
We just move it to
See
checkout.
why I adore you? Because I
There you
told him
go.
to put it in my wish
No,
list.
no,
No,
just say,
put it in the shopping
do you
cart.
want to contribute something to my happiness? Move it from wish list to checkout. Yes,
I appreciate that.
yes,
Thank you so much. I always
yes.
learn from you
Oh, yeah, there you
so
go.
much.
I give you ideas of how to handle. It's a narrative approach. What's the narrative we're going to use with Paul? Well, what are we going to do? We're going to tell you. We're going to make you happy.
If he
Let
wants to make me happy,
Yes,
to
there you go.
contribute to my happiness
Yes,
and my well-being is so important, especially as I approach this age where well-being is so important
yes,
for
it
my
is.
survival. I think
Yes. Yes.
moving the
Shoes is
shoes
part of it.
and moving shoes from wish list to
To
shopping cart
exactly.
is really important.
And
It's a
then
psychological
I think
effect.
it gives you a sense of completion.
Yes, it does. Because we completed that quest.
Exactly. And then it is like this is an unfinished task
Thank you so
if
much.
it's in the
That's
wish.
why I was feeling unsettled.
There you go. There
Okay.
you
So
go.
once I see the box at the door,
Yes,
I have accomplished
you
that.
have, yes, goal
And
accomplished.
one more notch on my belt.
There you go.
I love it.
And then you keep putting more. I don't think he's gonna hug me at the end. Yes, he will. He
He
will.
adores you. Oh my goodness. Well, it's always such a pleasure being in your
Thank you,
presence.
Mama.
I always
Thank you
learn
so
so
much.
much from you, and
And you're amazing.
thank you. So
You're
are
a rock
you.
star.
Thank you,
And it's
darling.
my pleasure to sit with you
Well,
and
thank you so
and I
much.
still have to cook for you. Haven't
Yes,
forgotten. We're gonna get it in the calendar right now.
we're
That's a
gonna
whole
let's
different
do
thing.
it on air because
Yes,
yeah,
right
like
now. Yes,
okay. Well, the
yes,
summer is coming, so
yes.
yeah,
Oh yeah, and I'll be here.
we'll be able to open the windows, play some salsa
Yes,
music,
yes.
dance, cook,
No pets.
eat.
No pets.
Thank you.
Yes, good. Yes,
You know me so well.
I know. I know. I know.
And we will have the best time, and I
Yes.
can't wait. I'm
Thank you
looking
for
forward.
having me.
Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for
Yes.
driving and getting here and getting lost.
Yes. I
And
found the street.
you did find
Yes,
the
I
street.
found the
Listen,
street.
I get lost in Worcester almost every day. I don't know how, but I do.
You manage.
You know what?
Yes, that's like a big accomplishment.
It is.
I have been living here and I still get lost.
I do, and I
Yeah,
tell
because
people,
I love to feel new.
I do. Every
Yes,
day I discover a new street,
there you go.
and I call Paul's like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "Suzanne."
Yeah. We passed that just that street 17 times in the last month.
Did you know? Yeah. Yes, it's been there
Yes,
for since we
ever.
moved to Worcester,
Yes,
but sure,
yes, yes.
you
Probably
know.
2 centuries ago.
Exactly. So,
Yes,
yes, sir.
good. That's what it is. Wellness.
That's that wellness, my friend.
Wellness.
Wellness.
Yes. Yes. I hope that Sean is okay with my. I hope I did well.
Sean, and
Did I
he's
do
another
well?
person. I'm telling you, I've been so blessed by the people that
Yes.
God places in my life, like you and Sean. And so I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And Sean, you'll be proud of your girl because she did
You
spectacular,
see, I behaved.
as I imagined she did. She did. So listen, thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you tuning in week after week. I appreciate your well wishes and your feedback. And for those without well wishes, well, it's okay too. I will send well wishes to you. Thank you to Paul, my executive producer, for making it happen week after week. And as always, I am always inspired by my phenomenal guests that are on the program. And I'll have I should say, Dr. Viviana Abreu-Hernandez
Mhm.
to lead us out with some words of encouragement.
Ooh, you didn't tell me I was going to do that. Show up,
Mm,
show up prepared.
mm,
Do not apologize for being prepared and being good.
mm.
And take care of your friends.
Okay. I love it. And until next time, that's it.